This man built an empire worth billions of dollars. He lived like a king. He moved royalties across Ireland. He donated to people. He was like a savior. In fact, he promised people safety for their money, only for him to leave them with nothing but financial ruins. For many years, this man wore expensive suits. He gave out millions to charity, and he was even called Sir. He looked successful and he looked powerful. But beneath the polished image, there was a secret growing quietly and dangerously. He was a fraudster. In fact, he pulled one of the biggest scams in the early 1990s. This man is Allen Stanford. You see, this is not just a story about money. It is a story about power, illusion, and belief. To understand the dark story of this man, you have to listen and watch carefully. This is Fame and Fallout. To many people, Allen Stanford was a hero and the richest man in the world. But behind the private jets and big smiles, he was hiding a massive lie.
The Stanford legacy began nearly 70 years ago back in Mahia, Texas, where my grandfather started Stanford Insurance Company during the height of the Great Depression.
The money wasn't his own, it was stolen. In fact, he ran an $8 billion Ponzi scheme through his account, defrauding a lot of people while claiming being a messiah to them.
The Stanford organization today maintains in excess of $10 billion in deposits, assets under management, or advisement.
Now, to understand the story of Allen Stanford, we first need to visit his childhood. Robert Allen Stanford was born on March 24, 1950 in Mexia, Texas. In those days, Mexia was a place where people worked hard and lived simple lives. His father, James, was a very important man in town. James was the mayor and the leader in the community. People liked and trusted him. So growing up, Allen Stanford lived in his father's shadow. In Texas, people like things to be big. They like big trucks, big houses, big talks. So Allen Stanford learned early on that if you were not the biggest or the best, people would not notice you. As a boy, Allen was not the smartest kid in school. He wasn't that good in academics, but he had a lot of energy in sports. He was very competitive. He didn't just want to play games, he wanted the prize and the glory. You see, he was not known as a troublemaker. He wasn't a rebellious child. In fact, he wasn't particularly loud, but he was observant and very competitive. He wanted to win. He wanted to succeed. And that mindset pitched him against his father. And here is why. Allen had a complicated relationship with his father because his father was a steady and honest man. But Allen didn't want to be steady or honest either. He wanted to be a king. He wanted Stanford's name to be famous all over the world, not just in one small Texas town. He didn't just want to be his father's son. He wanted to be the person everyone looked up to. It was in his blood. In every small thing like playing in the yard or school games, Allen could not handle losing. If he wasn't the winner, he would get very upset or keep trying until he found a way to come out on top. This wasn't just about fun. It was a deep need to feel powerful. He felt that being average was the same as being invisible. While growing up, Allen Stanford attended Eastern Hill High School in Fort Worth, Texas. It was one of the most famous in the city. In high school, Allen was a very tall and athletic boy. He played football, which was a huge deal in Texas town. You see, football stars in that city were treated like kings. Allen loved that feeling. He loved the cheering fans and the way people whispered his name in the grocery stores. He loved to be famous. In 1970, Allen Stanford attended Baylor University in Waco, Texas. Baylor is a private Christian university known for business and law programs, so Stanford chose to study finance, a field focused on managing, investment, and banking. He didn't just go there to sit in class and read books. He went there to start building his future. But while his classmates were stressed out about hard tests and long study hours, Allen was already focused on making real money. He thought studying finance in the 1970s was important. It was at the time when American economy was changing, inflation was rising, and interest rates were unstable. Banks were adjusting to new financial realities. So for a young man studying money, this was a powerful time to learn how the systems truly worked. One of the most creative ways he made money at Billionaire University was a secret business he did on campus. Now here is it. While most students were spending their money on pizza and textbooks, Allen found a clever way to fill his pockets. He became a scuba diving instructor. He was physically strong and loved the water, so he taught other students how to dive. While everyone was busy beating their brain out over schoolworks, over assignments, Allen was busy making a lot of money. Now this shows his early passion for finding money. He wanted a special area where he could be the boss and make profit at the same time. That was his mindset. Allen Stanford appeared to think beyond small goals. He did not seem interested in working as a simple bank employee. He wanted to build something. He wanted ownership and he wanted control. He was quick to realize that if you understand how to talk about money, people will trust you with their own money, and that was exactly the logic behind his success. You see, that knowledge he acquired at Billionaire University gave him the tools he needed to succeed in life. And that tools later convinced thousands of people to give him billions of dollars, which he later defrauded them. But before then, before the fraudulent record, before the biggest scam was pulled by this man, Allen met with a friend in Billionaire University, the same person he would later team up with as a partner in crime to scam the people later in his life. Now let's talk about Allen Stanford and his friend James Davis. Now, to understand how Allen Stanford started his fraudulent program that went successful for many years, we first need to talk about his partner in crime, who was James Davis. You see, the bond between these two men began in the early 1970s at Billionaire Universities. Allen and James were roommates in a small hostel room. They lived together, but their personalities were different. James was a skinny and quiet kid from a very religious background. He was called a straight arrow, meaning someone who followed every rules and spent his nights studying hard. He was brilliant with good numbers, and he had a deep understanding of accounting. But Allen Stanford, on the other hand, was this big, loud alpha male who spent his time teaching scuba diving and dreaming of being a billionaire. Now they had different personalities, but despite that, they became best friends. Allen saw that James had the brain for numbers that he didn't have, and James also relied on the confidence and big personality of Allen, so the support was vice versa. In fact, it was as if they were made for each other. But there's one thing to understand, that these two friends didn't start with fraudulent activities. They didn't thought about scamming people at first. They didn't have Ponzi scheme in their mind at first. All they wanted to do together was make money with their ideas. They wanted it so badly. But after they graduated from Billionaire University in 1974, they went their separate ways for a few years, no connection between both friends, and that moment of separation was the reality of life and what actually built up to the illegal money making. You see, life didn't just immediately turn into success for Allen after they departed. There was no billion-dollar empire waiting for him, no private jet, no SAR title after they graduated. During this separation, Allen tried to run a gym business. It was his first big dream to become a fitness coach. Probably because of his physique, he was tall and well built. By the late 1970s, when he opened the gym club in Waco, Texas, he wanted it to be the most beautiful gym anyone had ever seen. He spent a massive amount of money on fancy machines, nice floors, and big signs. But Allen had a problem. He liked spending money more than he liked counting it. He acted like a rich man even before he actually became one. He lived a loud life, but the gym wasn't making enough profit to pay for all of it. And that was where the problem lied. In the early 1980s, the business began to crash. He lost the gym and had to file for bankruptcy. He was broke and his reputation in Texas was hot. In that moment, Allen quickly learned a lesson that it is hard to make money honestly when you have huge debts to pay. It is even harder to make money legally. The best way is to do it illegally. And that was the turning point that brought about the scam idea. Now, to understand how the $1 billion scam started, to understand how Allen Stanford became rich overnight with other people's money, we first need to look at a man who was always desperate, a man who wanted money at all costs. That was Allen Stanford. You see, Allen was not a titan of industry. He was a man who had tasted failure in his business and he hated the flavor of it. He was nearly broke, his gym had failed and his pride was hurt. So he leveraged on that bitter experience to achieve his love for money. After his gym failed, Allen spent time in the real estate business. He noticed that people in Texas were very worried about their money because the local economy was crashing and they were losing a lot of money. He saw that people were looking for a safe place where their money could grow without the risk of the stock market. He realized a simple truth about human nature that if you tell someone they can earn more money than a normal bank offer them, and you tell them it is perfectly safe, they will stop asking difficult questions and they will invest in that thing. I mean, you tell them that you can keep their money for them and also give them 50% interest at the end of the year. A lot of these people will buy into that idea. They wanted to believe it is a magic deal and they would want to do it. And so, Allen decided he would be the man to provide that magic. So he clicked into the opportunity of the economic crash and started to build his own bank. Now here was how he did it. Allen looked at the map in the United States and the way the banks operated. If you set up a bank back in those days, the government and the FBI watches everything you do. They look at your books, they check your maths, and they make sure the money is actually there. They check every paper and make sure that every dollar is real.
The moral to this story is if you're full of BS, it'll get you to the top, but it will never, never, never keep you there. Thank you very much.
So Allen thought if he start up the fake bank in the city with the aim to scam people, he could easily get caught by the FBI. But if the bank is on a beautiful island thousands of miles away from the city, it will feel special, and so the plan would work. So he looked at the city map carefully and then he saw a tiny island that looked like a local area. That place was called Montserrat. At that time, Montserrat was like a land with no rules. There was not too many people there and the government could barely or hardly get their eyes and supervision over these places. That was where Allen decided to start up his fake bank. He knew no FBI could trace him there. He knew that no government could watch him over there. By moving there, he became the boss. There was no one to check his mathematics or look into his banking plan. He used this distance to create a mystery. Then, he told people to keep money in that bank he created and even promised them 10% interest, which was 5 times the normal bank interest. Now, instead of being suspicious, people thought, my money is in a tropical paradise. It is in the hand of Allen Stanford. Nothing would happen to it. And that was how he got their attention. Now he started using the little money to buy banking license. So once he had that paper, he could tell the world he was a banker with his fake license. And that was how he used that title to make people trust him. Even though the bank was just a shell to hide the secret, he had the real intention to scam people. But first, he had to go through the fake bank. In 1985, Allen Stanford started his first bank in the Caribbean on the island of Montserrat. Even though he didn't have a background in banking, he had the aim to scam. But before then, he knew he needed money to start up the business, so he used his real estate fortune as the seed money to open his bank and also get the bank license at the same time. You know, at the time in 1980s, it was easy for someone with enough cash to buy a banking license and start operating with almost no one watching them. So Allen opened that bank and named it Guardian International Bank. The name Guardian was chosen to make people feel safe. It made the bank sound like it was guiding or protecting the investors' money, when in real life it was targeting people from places like Mexico, Venezuela, who were looking for a safe place to keep their savings. So Allen Stanford started operating at Montserrat in the early 1980s. He started with so much trust. People believed him. They kept their money in his bank. Allen used a very simple but powerful promise: high return with zero risk. He marketed a specific type of investment called certificate of deposit. You see, in normal bank, a certificate of deposit is very safe but pays very little interest to their customers. But in Allen's bank, he offered something different. He promised interest rates that were consistently 10% higher than what any bank in United States can offer. He told investors their money was as safe as a United States government insured account, or even safer. He claimed his bank only put money into safe and sound things like top stocks, bonds, and real estate. He forcefully told people that their accounts were fully insured. He even went as far as forging an insurance certificate to make the lie look real. He promised the investors that their money was being watched by a team of over 20 professional analysts and audited by strict regulators. You see, Allen's promise were so sweet that anyone could easily fall for it with their money. And there was one thing that he did. He had a targeted audience. He was focused on people from countries like Mexico and Venezuela, people who were non-Americans. He knew these people were worried about their own local economies. So he promised them that his bank in the Caribbean city was a private refugee, where their wealth would be protected from inflation and government troubles at home. And that was how the Guardian International Bank started on a trust level. But at some point in the mid-1980s, the government and FBI started to suspect Allen's bank. The British authorities in Montserrat started to notice that his bank didn't have enough real money to back up all those big promises he made to his customers. They knew it was either he was lying or trying to scam the people. It was a Ponzi scheme he was running in that bank. But before he could successfully pull that stunt on the people, the FBI began a regulatory crackdown, meaning they were going to check his book very closely, investigate his transaction and bank license. If he gets caught running a fake bank, he would be arrested and prosecuted immediately. But Allen Stanford was way ahead. He was smart. He knew he was a fraud. And before he could get caught, he knew he had to flee the city. So instead of showing them the truth, Stanford quickly shut down the bank and moved everything to Antigua. Now, Antigua was like a neighboring island to Montserrat. They had rules in Antigua too, but not as effective as Montserrat. So Allen chose to run to Antigua because it was a nation where he could influence the government and operate with almost no one watching his book. That was where he ran to and continued his bank business. Now let's talk about what happened in Antigua, how he was able to connect with his old friend and how they pulled the biggest Ponzi scam in history. When Allen got to Antigua in the late 1990s, he didn't just open a bank immediately. He first bought the island's loyalty. He knew that if the government and the people loved him, then the police would never look at his secret books. Perhaps he was right about that. Once you buy the government, then you can buy the people. So he started appearing with good intention towards the Antigua's government. He became their largest employer. He built hospitals, he started national airline, and he owned local newspapers. In fact, almost every employee working in Antigua likely worked for him or knew someone who did. When the Antiguan government needed money for road or schools, Stanford gave it to them. This made the politicians believe in him. He wasn't just a businessman, he was Antigua's shadow king. He became their best friend before he became their biggest banker. And right when the trust was built, Allen would start building the bank. But before he could start the operation, he realized he needed someone he could trust completely to work with him as a crime partner. You see, in the world of money, trust is important. Trust is everything. So he remembered his old roommate, The quiet boy was a master of mathematics, the same boy whom he shared a room with at Baylor University, James Davis. So Allen went in search of his friend, shared his idea with him, and boom, they clicked so well. James was good at finance, Allen was good at ideas. So it was just like two geniuses coming together to scam the people. In 1994, Allen officially changed the name of his Guardian International Bank to Stanford International Bank. He put his own name on the building. He made it look like a grand, long-standing family legacy. In the people's mind, it was here to stay, but in Allen's mind, it was there to scam. But one problem was still hanging around for Allen. It was not the government, it was not the people, but there was someone left that he needed to control. That person was Leroy King. You see, Leroy King was the head of Antigua's Financial Commission. His job was to be the watchdog who ensured that banks on the island followed the law. But when he first met with Allen Stanford, instead of doing his job, Allen brought him to act as his personal spy and protector within the government. He gave him a lot of money just so he wouldn't investigate his bank. So Leroy became Allen's most important partner in crime. Allen and Leroy both had a blood oath that Leroy was never going to investigate the fake bank, as long as he's being paid in exchange for bribe and gift. King made sure no one ever did a real audit of Stanford's bank. You see, that was when Allen got the free hand to operate in Antigua. The government had believed him, the people also did. The financial commissioner worked with him. Allen now became the shadow king of Antigua, and that was when the operation commenced fully. By the early 1990s, Allen Stanford had fully settled in Antigua. He had already moved his operation from Montserrat in 1989, and now Antigua became the headquarters of his growing financial empire. His bank, Stanford International Bank, began attracting international investors. At this stage, the operation looked legitimate. The offices were polished, the brandings were professional, investors saw stability, and instead of them seeing the loopholes in the investments, Leroy King was doing the cover-up. Throughout the 1990s, Stanford International Bank aggressively marketed high interest on any deposit. These promises return were significantly higher than the US bank, sometimes 8% to 10% or more. That was when a lot of people should have suspected that something were not right. But since they believed Allen, they invested massively. Investors, especially in the United States and Latin Americans, were drawn to the promise of safety plus high returns. Billions of dollars began flowing into Antigua through Stanford. It was the center of massive wealth. It was generating so much money. Even the Antigua's governments were benefiting at large. But there's a question everyone was not asking. Perhaps they ignored. How was he getting the interest to pay every investor? When he promised them 10% interest, where was he getting the 10% from to pay the investors at due date? Now, the answer to this question is not here. The answer will come in 2009 when he finally got exposed and he got arrested. But before then, let's talk about how he operated smoothly from the 1990s till 2009. From the 1990s to the early 2000s, Allen Stanford transformed his small Stanford International Bank into a major operation in Antigua. All he did was selling certificates of deposits that promised high returns while only investing about 10% of the fund, which was quite unbelievable in the banking world. Well, Stanford did not operate quietly. He built influence in Antigua through donations, investments, and high-profile projects. He employed locals, he built office buildings, he sponsored events. All of these things were done to cover up the illegal moves he was making. In fact, Allen made one significant move between 1994 to 1997 in Antigua. He had built a massive bank headquarters right next to the international airport. You see, he intentionally built it there because he wanted every terrorist and businessman who landed at Antigua to see the Stanford Financial Group building first. He wanted to be the center of attention. In fact, the buildings were made of white marbles and surrounded by beautiful gardens. He now made his bank look like a permanent royal institution. Another thing he did was stepping in as a hero for Antigua's government. During this time, the government of Antigua was struggling. They were often short on cash. The economy was not very good. So Stanford stepped in as a hero. He began giving massive loans to the government to pay for school fees, road and hospital. By doing this, he became more than a businessman. He now became the city's main source of funding. He effectively bought the government's protection with the investors' own money. As if that level of fooling and deceit was not enough, in 1997, Stanford started his own daily newspaper in the city of Antigua, and then he named it the Antigua Sun. This was a genius move because he knew that once he owned his own media, he could control his own story. The newspaper always printed him as a saint and a genius. If anybody tried to speak out against his bank, his paper would shut them down. This gave him a feeling of safety where no bad news could reach the public. So as he was doing all of this, the investors in Antigua believed him. In fact, that was when they started putting more money into his bank. They were also inviting more investors from outside the city to come join the bank. And that was where the 10% interest was coming from and kept flowing on. Now let me explain to you how investors were getting 10% interest monthly even when the banking process was a scam. You see, Allen Stanford promised people something very attractive. About 10% interest every month on their money, which was very high, especially for a bank that claimed to be safe and secure. Normal banks do not give that kind of return without risk. But Allen told investors that their money was being carefully invested in strong, steady assets like real estate management. But that was not truth. It was a blatant lie. Here's how it really worked. When the first group of investors gave him money, he did not invest it the way he claimed. Instead, when it was time to pay them the 10% profit, he used the money from a new group of investors to pay the old investors. So let's imagine this simple example. 100 people invested $10 million totally. Stanford promises them 10% interest, and after 1 month, they expected $1 million in profit. Instead of Allen making that $1 million through real estate business that he claimed, he was collecting money from another 100 new investors. Then he used part of the new money to pay the first investors. Now the first group sees their interest paid on time. They are happy, they believe the system works. Some of them even reinvested more money. That was how the trust grew. Then more new investors comes in, their money is used to pay the second group, and the circle continues. This kind of system is called Ponzi scheme. It looks like it is working. People see steady return, no loss, no complaints, everyone feels safe. But here is the big problem. The system only works if new money keeps coming in. So if too many investors ask for their money back at the same time, or if new investors stop putting in money, the whole things would collapse. There's no real profit underneath. That's the honest truth. And that was why in Stanford's case, billions of dollars were flowing into Antigua through his bank, through foreign investors. As he was paying old investors, he was also living a wide life. Cricket sponsorship, luxury lifestyles. He built the image of success. That image helped attract even more investors. In June of 2008, Allen Stanford made a world-famous entrance to announce his new deal with England Cricket in London. You see, this was a massive publicity stunt designed to show his wealth. He wanted to show the world he was the richest man in sports. So he flew a private gold-plated helicopter onto the holy grass of the Lord Cricket Ground, which was a traditional place in England. As the helicopter stopped, he stepped out with a clear plastic bag, and inside that bag was a $20 million in cash. He stood there, smiling, while the leaders of England Cricket shook hands with him. He said he wanted a game played between Stanford cricket team and the England team. and whoever wins goes home with the $20 million. That was unbelievable because $20 million was a huge amount of money, never been donated before in cricket history. But Allen Stanford was offering such money. They didn't know it was a stunt to appear good to the people. These stunts convinced the world that he was a wealthy man, no doubt. Because how would they suspect a man who carries $20 million in a box to be a pretender of wealth? And that moment, that $20 million donation led to the biggest cricket match in November 2008. Stanford presented himself as a generous billionaire who wanted to revolutionize cricket. To many people in Antigua, he was a savior. He had already created jobs, sponsored national events, supported local businesses, and he even funded cricket infrastructure. So people saw him as the man putting Antigua on the world map. But behind the scene, something was wrong. I mean, very, very wrong. The money he was using to sponsor cricket was not coming from real investment profits. It was coming from investors' funds, the same money from the bank that was supposed to be safely invested. In other words, while he was giving millions to cricket, the bank itself was not as strong as people believe it was. And when that game began, players were dressed in flashy uniform instead of traditional white cricket clothes. There was music, celebrities, and political leaders in attendance. The entire event looked more like a global entertainment show than a normal cricket match. One controversial moment occurred during the match. While the world was watching the high-stake game in Antigua, the TV camera caught something very awkward. When Allen was sitting in his luxury box in the stadium, he did the unthinkable. He pulled the wife of one of his players and forced her to sit on his lap. That moment was embarrassing right on the field. To the British and the cricket world, this was seen as incredibly disrespectful and creepy. It shows that Stanford felt like he owned everyone in the stadium because he was the one paying the bills. The England team and the players were furious, and Stanford had to issue a public apology immediately. That was the moment the hero image started to fall off, but money was covering it. Well, the game went on, and at the end of the match, Stanford's superstars won by defeating England. It was one of the shortest and most embarrassing defeats in England cricket history. But you see, the most significant takeaway from that night wasn't just the win, it was the money, the $20 million. After the game, Stanford stood on the pitch, literally hugging his players and handing out giant checks. The prize money was huge compared to what the players used to collect. For many local cricketers, that was life-changing money. For a brief moment, Stanford looked like a hero who had transformed the cricket forever. But there was one warning sign. Some cricket officials were uncomfortable with how much control Stanford wanted. He often stand at the center of attention. He presented the checks personally, he made speeches, everything evolved around him. It was the peak of his power. People watching at home thought, this man is the future of sport. But as they were celebrating, a big problem was waiting to happen. Nemesis was around the corner. Just few months after the cricket game, in early 2009, Allen Stanford was posted wanted for fraud for the first time in a long time. By February 2009, just 3 months after the game, Stanford was posted as wanted by the US government. He was publicly accused of masterminding a massive Ponzi scheme, running a massive financial fraud through Stanford Financial Group. They alleged that the high-interest investment products he was selling were not backed by safe, profitable investments. They claimed that Allen Stanford was involved in a fraudulent $800 billion investment scheme. Stanford denied the allegations, but he was not immediately arrested because these were civil and not criminal charges at the time. And over the next few months, Allen went from a celebrated billionaire to a wanted person. But by June of 2008, the criminal case was fully under investigation. He was now charged with wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. The Department of Justice and the FBI officials declared him a wanted man in a multi-billion-dollar criminal fraud scam. And that was when he was set to be arrested. On the day of the arrest, Allen Stanford was in United States, having the time of his life. According to reports, Stanford allegedly tried to flee the country by hiring a private jet back to Antigua, but his credit card were refused. Now, 2 days later, FBI agents located him at his girlfriend's house in Virginia and served him with civil papers. On June 18, 2009, after the criminal indictment was ready, Stanford voluntarily surrendered to the FBI in Virginia. He was taken into custody, and a few weeks later, he pleaded not guilty in a Austin court. After his arrest, his financial empire froze. Assets were seized, bank accounts were locked, company operations were shut down. His employees at Stanford offices in Texas and in Antigua were suddenly unemployed. A lot of people were shocked. They had believed the business was legitimate. Investors started to panic. Some had placed their life savings into Stanford International Bank, believing they were secure and stable. Well, back in Antigua, the impact of his arrest was deeply personal because Stanford wasn't just a businessman to them. He had been recognized and treated like a national benefactor. They thought he was a treasure to them, and now they realized that he came to scam them. They couldn't believe how stupid they had fell for this man. In January 2012, nearly 3 years after his arrest, the trial officially began in Houston, Texas. The courtroom battle was intense. Prosecutors said Stanford knowingly lied to investors for years, promising safe investments while secretly misusing their funds. They even showed him internal documents, emails, financial statements, and testimonies from his former employees. Some former staff members testified that they were instructed to present misleading financial data to investors so as to look real. And that alone proved that Stanford knew what he was doing. He had the Ponzi scheme intention right from the beginning. Though, Stanford lawyer argued something different. They said he genuinely believed in his investment strategy. They painted him as ambitious but not criminal. They also said he was a philanthropist. They said he donated to Antigua, scholarships, and community projects. They were trying to paint him like a good person, but that was not enough to defend this man. He was doing all of this with investors' money. Well, on March 6, 2012, the jury reached its decision. After a week of testimony, they found Allen Stanford guilty on multiple counts, including fraud and conspiracy. In June 2012, Stanford was sentenced to 110 years in federal prison. He would likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. He was also ordered to forfeit billions in assets. You see, the sentence didn't take the people by shock. They expected it.
Allen Stanford, the former Texas billionaire convicted of running a $7 billion Ponzi scheme, has been sentenced to 110 years in prison.
But the problem still remains that the people who lost their life savings to these investments couldn't survive. Some victims cried quietly, others sat silent. For thousands of investors who lost retirement savings, businesses, and family wealth, this was long-awaited accountability. For almost 20 years, Allen Stanford deceived thousands of investors across the world. Many people trusted him with their retirement savings, business funds, and family wealth. When the scheme finally collapsed, lives were shattered overnight. Some people lost everything they had worked for. Families faced bankruptcy. Businesses closed. Dreams were destroyed. In Antigua, the economy was shaking, and the island reputation suffered. Employees lost their jobs. Communities felt betrayed. What looked like a powerful empire turned into a painful lesson about deception, greed, and the real cost of false promises. The moral of Allen Stanford's story is simple but powerful. You see, greed can destroy everything, even success that look untouchable. Another lesson is that trust should never replace verification. Many educated people, governments, and even regulators believed in him without asking enough questions. They saw the wealth, the fame, and the confidence, and they assumed everything was real. But confidence is not proof. Big offices and big donations do not mean a business is honest. In Antigua, Stanford became bigger than the system. That silence helped the fraud continue for years. Finally, shortcuts to wealth often lead to long-term destruction. The lifestyle may look glamorous for a time, but lies always collapse. When the truth came out, everything he built, both the fame, the respect, the empire, all disappeared overnight. In the end, the moral is clear. Money built on deception will never stand, and no empire built on lies can survive forever.
Allen Stanford was among the wealthiest men in the U.S. He built a lavish lifestyle from banking and smooth talk. But his slick sales pitch turned out to be a lie.
Allen Stanford is a sociopath.
He's one of the richest men in the world. He used the money on yachts, and private jets.
We are revamping our marketing strategy. In effect, we are reinventing ourselves.
Hope you enjoyed the story. For more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notification button so you won't miss other amazing documentaries like this one. You can also click here for more fame and fallout stories.
Moral to this story is if you're full of BS, it'll get you to the top, but it will never, never, never keep you there. Thank you very much. Thank you.